I wanted to talk a little bit next about some of the kind of the framework for selling on demand. And if you're in sales, you might have seen or heard of this acronym before. But with the S.P.E.E.D acronym, this kind of lays out how you can go out into the world and sell something like Boostlingo and sell really anything. But it talks about how to discover the ways that this solution, Kings of Translation, can position themselves and be of value to the client, servicing the pain. And with this, it's pretty simple. You're finding a pain point for your client. You're asking them, or you're having them explain to you, the issues they're having, the things that are hard for them when it comes to, getting access to interpretation, to translation. What does that look like for them? Is it take too long? Is it too costly? Is having to have people only come on site prohibitive for them to be able to provide services to the people that need it? And so finding the pain point is always the first thing that you'll hear about any sort of sales cycle. But with most, I think it's a pretty easy process of just having them explain, how do you do it now? What are you doing to get access to a Spanish interpreter at, 7 p.m.? How cost effective it can be, how difficult it is to get somebody to come on site, maybe how they don't have trust in using the on-demand services. But when it comes to a pain point, Yasha, specifically, I wanted to ask you if there's any that come to mind when you guys are out there, selling Kings of Translation, selling the Boostlingo platform.
In terms of the pain point, I think it's definitely been the best approach for us, especially for legal firms. Whenever we ask a client what their biggest challenges are, it's the easiest way to gain some insight and really provide that information for them in terms of what the platform has to offer and the services that we have to offer. And when we go from there, it essentially just leads us to providing them that solution that they're looking for. And really that's where it becomes the easiest when it comes to really gaining a client.
Yeah. Okay. So once you find that pain point, you guys are able to, move on to P here, positioning the impact and essentially providing how you all will make that easier. You're going to make this a lot easier for them to get access to, the interpreters at off hours, or find access to a language, that's considered rare and hard to find in an area that they might be, or that they might not have anyone that can even come and speak that on site. So finding the pain point, positioning yourself to provide impact, to kind of close that gap from what the solution they're looking for and what you guys are able to provide. The next one is evidencing the solution. So we'll get to that here in a second, but that's essentially just showing them and demoing the product is the easiest way to do that. If you're able to pull up a phone app and just connect to an interpreter really quick, or like I'll do in a moment, just pull the web application up and do the same thing, or even just pulling up, a phone landline and dialing in via IVR and speaking to someone over the phone. All those solutions are simpler, quicker, easier, and more cost effective than what they've most likely been doing in the past. So it's a pretty easy evidence for them to see, what that pain point is for them now and what it could be, if they start working with you. The last two, the economics, I think is pretty simple. You tie in all the things we talked about, their pain, their time, their costs, all the things that are causing them trouble when they need language access. If you just provide them with all of these tools and solutions and they happen to also be cheaper, I think the economy of it pretty much explains itself and makes it a pretty easy decision, which leads lastly to the decision path, which again, you're not selling people something that they don't need. This is not out there, being a salesperson that's trying to provide something that has no value. You're just trying to show your clients that, you guys provide a solution and you do it well. And not only that, you can now, partnering with Boostlingo, provide it instantaneously, provide it with much ease and, much cheaper cost of entry. You present all of that to them and the decision is almost made. But with the decision path, I like to say you just lay out all of the evidence in front of them and let them kind of make that final decision themselves. And lastly, so, at the end of these demos, the end of these conversations, we do need to close the deal, gain these prospective clients as, clients for yourself. So some of the things that we've found that are really helpful for closing this are mentioned below. But, depending on what kind of client, what kind of customer you're talking to, if this is an RFP, if this is a contractual thing, obviously having that in place, having rates, having a rate card, so you can dictate to them like, hey, this is what your per minute, cost will be when it comes to utilizing Kings of Translation and utilizing, our on-demand service. Break that down by languages if they have different needs, if they have different volume in those. I think that's really helpful to give them the idea of, what it will cost, especially when it comes to RFPs. They've got a good idea of, volume of what kind of, how many minutes, how many hours they've needed in the past for these certain, opportunities or certain languages. So having a rate card ready for them is always really helpful. As well, any sort of other collateral that you can give them, guides, sales decks, any sort of training material that helps them feel like this transitional period is going to be as seamless and painless as possible, I think is a huge, huge key. Because a lot of times, and I imagine you can attest to this, is you'll talk to people that are great candidates that have all the pain points that you've laid out how you guys are going to make everything so much easier and better for them. And their hesitation is not around saving money, or it's really about just implementing a new solution and training people and having them make the change. We call that change management. And so I think having a lot of this material is really helps them feel at ease when it comes to that. But for you, Yasha, I really wanted to ask, as we wrap this up, what has helped you all, when you go out there and demo this product and sell Kings of Translation as a company? What has helped you close these deals or help make the end of these sales run a little smoother?
Right. Just as you mentioned, I think for us, for most of our clients, we do provide the information beforehand. So having those guides and providing them that information is really the key for us, if anything. Once we're actually doing the demo, I think that's pretty much how we seal the deal, as a matter of fact. So we like to keep the demos short and just focus on like the real world needs, if anything. And after that, they right there and then they pretty much opt for whether they want to continue on with the service, with the platform, or if they're going to seek out an alternative option.
Sure. And I guess for you all, do you provide this information? Are they asking for this information, these rate cards, these things kind of at the end, or is that something you guys are already like forthcoming with that you already have?
We do, for the most part, provide it beforehand. We provide, aside from the guides for interfacing with other communication platforms, we also provide them a guide for the rates, as well as the connection speed for each individual language. So,
oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty well informed before we even go into the demo. Yeah. So
I feel like that's probably it makes it easy, right?
Yeah. So if anything, when we're doing the demo, the more simple it is, the better it is for them. They like just how easy it is to use the platform.
I like that. We're really getting them like all of this, talking through speed like we spoke about, getting them all of the material, pretty much answering all their questions beforehand, aside from just showing them the demonstration, really makes it just like a simple decision at the end. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it, Yasha. Thank you so much. Was there anything else, any points, any just tidbits of information that you'd wanted to, add that we maybe didn't discuss today?
Yeah, I do want to say thanks to the platform, we've been able to gain clients. Partnering with Boostlingo has just helped us grow, improve client satisfaction, and overall just simply simplify our sales process, if anything. So we are grateful for that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate that. All right. So to wrap it up, I think just some of the key takeaways today that we talked about were, how you can go out into this market as an LSP, as a language service provider, and really position yourselves as, a provider to these clients, and what types of tools, what types of things that really are helpful, things that have helped you, Kings of Translation, to take a new idea, part of this industry that you guys were not focusing on whatsoever, and within a year's time, turn that into a viable aspect of your business that's growing on a monthly basis, that you're adding more and more value to day to day. I just think that, with a tool like Boostlingo and with just a little bit of practice, a little bit of sales, a little bit of demoing, I think you really can get out there and sell yourself and sell this service as something that is viable and also just really, really valuable in the language access industry that's just ever evolving today.